There's Ron. Okay. It's a little dark where you are, Ron.
Undark?
Yeah.
Let me undark it. Oh my gosh, what happened? It's still dark. Hold on, I gotta fix that, huh? All right, I'll fix that while you're doing your thing
Yeah,
there.
no worries.
Who
Let's go ahead
knows?
and get started so we can respect everybody's time.
Go to it.
Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have you join us for today's webinar. We're talking about how AI is transforming the service, BDC, and fixed operations. My name is Ashleigh Norton. With me today, I also have Dave Perry, the CEO here at Blink AI. I have Tammie Ventura, the BDC director of the Hudson Auto Group and a very close friend of the Blink AI team, all of us. And then we also have Ron Overs of the Fixed Ops magazine. So before we dive in, let's do a little housekeeping. This is interactive. I want it to be interactive. So please, we encourage you to participate. You're going to see some live polls pop up throughout the webinar. Take a second to vote so that we can really tailor our discussion to what matters most to you guys, because that's ultimately what we're here for. So with that said, let's jump into it. If I can find the right screen out of all of these. And I apologize ahead of time. My dog is trying desperately to be a star of the show. Okay, so this is what we're here to talk about today is at Blink AI, we are hyper committed to empowering not just fixed operations, but really to wrapping our arms around and empowering our BDC teams with AI-driven solutions. And we want to hear from you on various aspects of that. We want to enhance the efficiency of your teams, streamline customer interactions, and ultimately drive revenue growth. And I think that at the base of what we do here is we want a seamless human-centered experience, reducing those bottlenecks, optimizing that service scheduling, and ultimately leading to customer trust in our BDCs. So, oh, I skipped a slide. So this was a study done by Cox Automotive, showing that trust in dealers has eroded by almost half in service customers based on their experiences, their frustration with various aspects of their service experience. And a lot of that does start in the scheduling process. Interesting to note here, this study has been done twice, once last year and about 4 years ago. And the numbers haven't changed. And that's what we are dedicated to changing. Some of those key drivers of trust, and Dave, Tammie, Ron, jump in here on your thoughts, but these are what JD Power says are the top 6 key drivers of trust erosion in service. So any standout here that surprised you guys?
I think those are pretty spot on.
Yeah.
With long wait times, we hear it all the time, like, 4-hour wait for an oil change sometimes, or even just trying to reach someone to communicate. Transparency is huge. And I don't want to, steal the show here with all of them, but I'll let Dave and Ron jump in as well. But lack of transparency, I think that's where your culture comes in. And I know we talk about culture a lot and we discuss what that looks like and what makes a better customer experience. But how many times do we truly sit down as a team and talk about where we're lacking in that transparency and with that culture, where we need to improve? And what's the answer to it? How do we approach that and make sure everybody's on the same page from the first person we talk to on the phone, whether that's scheduling, receptionist, someone in sales, whoever we communicate with first, what does that look like? And are we really and truly clearly communicating with the customer and giving them the experience and the answers that they're really looking for?
Yeah, spot on there. We can't really point fingers at one independent department when we're talking about lack of transparency. It does. It starts in the BDC, it continues on into the drive, and I think that there's a reputation in automotive of that your service advisors are not going to be transparent about what you truly need. And I don't think our service advisors want to not be transparent, but there's a training aspect there. And you're right, Tammie, there's a conversation that needs to be had. I look at the inconsistent dealership experiences. You may have a wonderful experience one day because you got to talk to Tammie, and the next day you talked to Dave and it was just the worst experience ever. Not against you, Dave, but
Another Dave.
I like to pick on you. And yeah, for our viewers too, drop in the chat if you have questions and comments about anything that we're discussing today. But I'll pass it over to you, Dave. What stands out here to you?
Well, I think the thing that I'd like to put some perspective on is these elements here are all important, but they don't stand in a vacuum. I think dealerships, by and large, have all progressed and making a better experience, but it's relative to what it used to be. And I think that people, when they're making a purchase decision, which this really is, where am I taking my vehicle to get service done, they're comparing this experience with all the other experience and the other options that I have available. We'd be that at another dealership or with a third-party service organization. And so the bar just keeps rising, year after year. Even if you're progressing in, your attention to customer, offering services and the like, that bar just keeps going up as well. So if we really want to get it up over 50%, we got to make pretty significant or more radical changes to the whole experience so that getting your car serviced is as simple and easy as ordering a hamburger on DoorDash.
Which I did this morning, not a hamburger. What about you, Ron? Anything here from you?
I think the one that really played for me here was the inconsistent dealership experience. If the last time I called in or texted back to get an oil change or some kind of car service and everything went great, and this time there seems to be 2 or 3 more steps to it, there's an anxiety that builds up right away. And you're like, it shouldn't be this difficult. Okay, I'm coming to spend money. Make it easy for me. And, so I just think finding a process that you can lock yourself in and be consistent and be consumer focused and handle those exceptions as exceptions and just take care of them. When 90% of the people are okay with your normal process, you get somebody just outside of that because if they have special needs, just take care of them. Just do whatever they ask, get it done, and make it work.
100%. Okay, so going back, one of the biggest ones that I think is where Blink AI comes in is in the appointment scheduling difficulties. So we're going to jump to our first poll of the day. You can poll 3 different ways. You can scan that QR code right there. You can go to that way too long URL if you're good at that, or you can simply text 22333, text Ashleigh Norton 167, and the poll will start for you. So we want to talk about, and you may even pull up your website and try to figure it out, but what we constantly talk with our dealers about is how many steps does it take your customers to schedule a service appointment from the time they enter the website to a complete appointment. And so, yeah, jump in. Let's start getting the poll going. I'll ask you first, Dave, which one do you think we're going to get the most of?
Well, I think it'll probably be a low number because I think sometimes people don't really know. And so they assume it's a simpler process. But until you actually go try it out yourself, book a service appointment for yourself or your significant other and see how many steps it takes, particularly if you're a new customer that's the first time visit to the dealership. And there, what we've seen is really closer to 7+ steps for most dealerships.
Yep. Ron?
Yeah, I think I've seen the same thing at most stores. It's probably that at least 5 to 6. You guys know better than I would, but from what my experience, it's a lot more than you would think. I think a lot of people are going to think it's 3 or 4, but when they really stop and think about what they have to go through to lock down a date and a time, and have that conversation. It's probably up that 5, 6, 7 steps.
Yep. Now, Tammie, you're deep in it with your centralized service BDC. Have you guys shopped your sites prior to using Blink? I know you guys have Blink on most of your sites, but what have you shopped your sites to see what it is if they're not using the Blink scheduler?
We have the system we were using before. I think that was the primary reason we went to Blink, to help streamline that a little bit, make it a little more efficient. And that made a difference. Some of the stores have switched to, another scheduling system, which does clean it up a little bit. But Blink, when the customers call in, especially they're in the car, wherever they are, driving and not texting, it does make it pretty quick for them. And I think that's for the customers that want that, I think that's what they're looking for.
Okay. Let's look at the results. Dave, you're right. Again, as usual. So 60% of you guys say 3 to 4 steps. And if you're not using Blink AI, I would really encourage you to actually audit your scheduler from entry point to completed appointment, because 3 to 4 steps is quite uncommon from everything I've seen. And in our industry, a study was done, and it says that the average online scheduling process takes 5 to 7 steps. And research shows that conversion rates drop. I found this astounding when I found this stat. Conversion rates drop by 20% for each additional step. So think about that. And if you have to tell the scheduler your name, your phone number, your make, your model, your year, your trim level, if your schedulers are asking for that information, every single step you take is dropping your conversion rate by 20%. I would 100% audit it. And if I'm wrong, you'll have my phone number at the end of this webinar, and you can call and let me know. So why does this matter is what the results are here. The standard web scheduler has a 70% abandonment rate. The customers get in, they finally find the scheduler, they click through all the pop-ups that are on your website, and then they enter all of their information, year, make, model, trim level. Some of our schedules are even asking customers to self-diagnose and to tell them what kind of oil they need in their car. And I have a hard time remembering what model my car is, much less my trim level that I bought 5 years ago. I don't know. So I'm going to hang up on the scheduler online, and I'm just going to call the dealership. Well, what happens then, Tammie?
Well, if they get my BDC, they get answered. But
Of course, yes.
Of course. But what typically happens depends on, finagling the tree, right? And then how is it directed? Does it go into the lane first, ring a few times, ring over somewhere else? Usually the call, by the time it reaches us, if it's that sort of situation, they will abandon the call pretty quickly. And then we will get a call later saying, I've been trying to call you so many times, but we don't see a call from them because they didn't really reach us. So what does that look like internally, where you think that's a really great idea, but it usually ends up sabotaging your end result? So then we're here, right?
And we're here, right?
Here looking for a solution.
Yeah, the average store is losing 42% of those calls. They're not all lost, but how many are actually returned? How many customers are going to call you again? How many are going to call someone else? And what happens to us in our franchise world is they're just going to think, I've got a great idea. I'm just going to drive up there at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning because that web scheduler looked like it was wide open. They can get me in at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'll get in, I'll get out. They show up unannounced, no appointment. And it causes chaos. We have chaos in the BDC, we have chaos on the phones, and now we have chaos in the drive. Dave,
That's right.
Ron?
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, last thing you want to do is have people just showing up and you trying to work it into their schedule. Now, you also have to build a little queue time into your schedule because those things do happen in life,
Of
right?
course,
So
absolutely.
it's like a doctor's appointment, right? We book every 15 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, but there better be room in there for somebody coming in there who needs stitches, right? So the same thing in the car business. You got to queue a little time for those things. But I totally agree. You've got to make the process simple and intuitive. I think that's the hardest part when I look at things. And again, I'm from the fixed ops world in general, just looking in to see what's happening many times. It may make a lot of sense to the programmer the way they did that, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to the average consumer who's looking at it and just saying, I just want to make an appointment. That's nothing tricky. Let's just do this, okay? And let's get it scheduled. Then let's talk about what I want to have done. But
Yeah.
make it really easy and get the date set and everything before I go through 20 questions, before I find out you don't have a date for 45 days for me anyways,
Yeah.
So,
I mean, in the Amazon world, imagine having to tell Amazon your name, your phone number, your email address, your mailing address, your credit card number every time you wanted to make a purchase. Do you think Amazon would be as successful as they've become?
yeah, not a
Probably
chance.
not.
Right.
All
Well,
right.
and the thing too is that chaos in the morning has an effect all the rest of the day. Obviously, it just pushes things out the rest of the day. Everyone's got a longer wait time. Now that tends to make people not want to take advantage of upsell opportunities to get the additional things that are found during the service visit. And so
Right.
it makes the RO values really lower than they should be. So by having a scheduler that not just, books everyone in the morning so that, you don't even have room for those walk-ins. You need a scheduler that can bias the appointments around the times where it's going to get the customer in where their wait time is the lowest, and it takes the pressure off of that morning. So trying to bias appointments for later in the afternoon, because the stores, my view, the stores that have the most chaos or most capacity issues in the morning, also late in the day, they're oftentimes empty because all that got done up front, and now they're just twiddling their thumbs late in the day. And so you want that just for certain shop loading purposes as well as customer sat. You'd like to just have an even flow throughout the day. You'd like to keep your service techs busy pretty much all day long so that it's a win-win-win for you, the dealer, for the customer, and for the service techs and the advisors as well.
Yep. And so, shameless plug here. This is not a sales webinar, but I am going to shamelessly plug that our dealers using our advanced web and digital scheduling immediately from launch see a lift in scheduled appointments, fewer inbound calls, and fewer unexpected walk-ins. And I won't pitch again. I promise. Okay. Ron does not believe me. All right, next poll. Again, same process. If you were texting, it should be right there. Oh, I have to activate it. One moment, please. Rookie move. Oh, where are you? Sorry, guys, but this is going to be the poll in about 20 seconds. Pop up. Okay, no more rookie moves. Okay, next poll. This should be popping up in your whatever you're using. What is, and you have to pick one because I'm sure we all handle a lot of these in the BDC world, but what is your biggest challenge in service BDC today? So, Tammie, I'm going to go to you because you are the one that is in the thick of it with your service BDC. What do you think?
I would say most people probably struggle with handling a high call volume efficiently. No matter who you are, where you are in the dealership, outside of the consolidated, not consolidated, you're going to, of course, it's like customers. All calls don't flow beautifully throughout the day, right? You get a plug at certain times in the day, the volume goes up, the volume goes down, people go to lunch, And, it goes on, the cycle goes on and on. So you are dealing with that quite a bit. So what does that look like for the customer, and getting back to them as quickly as possible, or presenting them with a text or something where they can start communicating immediately? What does that look like for the customer? Because I think it was Ron earlier that was like, I gotta make an appointment, It was like customers they get in this like dread mode of, that's what I thought, this is what I experience every time, it was good last time, now it's not. That inconsistency we talked about earlier, but that I believe would be any BDC's probably biggest challenge.
I can agree with that. I also, and because I wrote the survey, I think A is a big challenge of getting customers to answer calls. Well, it's a big challenge of getting time to make the calls, but then it's an even bigger challenge of getting customers to answer the calls. And Tammie, you and I go way back in BDC training, and you're either not making enough calls, or you're not saying the right things to get people to call you back, or you're just not reaching out to the right people, and working those follow-ups. And Jeff and Scott are in the chat. They both agree with D. It's managing the follow-ups and getting the retention, which is ultimately what business development is about for service. It's not about taking layups and inbound calls. It's about growing the business and maintaining the revenue. Dave, Ron, anything here before we go to the results?
Well, I'd be curious, just a question for Tammie is, what's your split between inbound and outbound efforts, and where would you like to see your BDC spending their time?
Well, I guess that's because we do have a high volume of inbound, because we have 29 locations that we support.
Right.
So I just, immediately go that, because we have a very strong outbound. We are a business development center. We are 2.5 that we can, or over outbound to inbound. I mean, we're strong with that. We've worked diligently on that to make that happen. And so I guess that's why I don't really gear there. All of my I have 63 agents, all inbound agents.
Holy
work
cow.
outbound. So when their inbound's not coming, they have designated campaigns they go to that they work religiously. They know what their expectations are for those. We do a lot of coaching and a lot of training to help that conversion and build those retention numbers. So we keep a really strong focus, and we're probably a little more robust than some BDCs. So I have to remember that, because we use AI and you guys, and we just, I don't know, we're pretty substantial BDC. Getting the customers to answer, we're always meeting about that, looking at that, changing text, changing approaches, changing offers. We look at the conversions, what that looks like. How do we tweak it? Is it working? Is it not working? So we get pretty dialed in on those items. To answer your question a little more clearly, Dave, I have probably a group of 12 that are outbound only. We have manual T3s, TLEs, whatever the brand is that we're working on, things that are coming back to us from mailers and that sort of thing, and return calls from outbound calls. Our inbound agents, the rest of them are inbound, but they also, as I mentioned, work outbound. So they're taking those outbound calls that are coming
Sure.
back in if they're assigned to those campaigns.
Yeah.
It's probably a little different than it is for a normal just a 1-point stored BDC. I've had that 4 or 5 people in service, 8 people in sales, what that looks like in and out, conversion. How I fortunately, as time has gone on and AI has gotten more refined, and I've watched you guys grow and get more refined, with your approach too, and it's fortunate that we're also able to talk to your customer care. Mike is really good to support. We get on calls, we look at what's working and what's not working. We, it's that interaction, because you can have a really good tool, but it is how you utilize it, and also the support that you're
Right.
getting on the other side. So I probably get a little too deep into this because I always have, but there's just, there's a lot of moving pieces in this. So yes, I can see where somebody would say managing follow-ups and retention efforts. What tools are you
Yeah.
utilizing to make those more effective and happen where the customer's getting answers quickly and effectively? And then your team is also getting it when you get the handoff. How fast and consistently are you supporting those customers? Are you giving good answers? Are you not just stopping, and taking that customer to the next level? I don't know. I could talk an hour on probably each subject that's A, B, C, D, and E. But anyway,
We'll
I'm
do a
getting out of
follow-up
it,
on
but
that.
that's my point.
Well, the
Thanks,
results are
Tammie.
in, right, Ashleigh?
The results are in, and I was right. Sorry, guys. So what do we think? It is
Well,
67% getting customers to answer the phone.
I would say myself, right? I probably answered between 20 and 30% of my calls. The phone rings, I look at the number. If it's something that's relevant, I'm picking it up. If it's not, I'm not letting the phone run my day. So otherwise I would be spending all day finding out about, healthcare enhancements that I need and, many other products that they decided to call me on today. So, the point is I think there's a lot of people that are doing the screening of their calls. And so
Sure.
to the testament of the first answer, yeah, I think that in today's world, a text message or something that's saying, hey, we're going to be calling you shortly about setting up an appointment. Watch for our number or watch for my inbound call. And then you watch for it. Or if it's the dealership's name, make sure it's in their phone, right from the when they buy the car itself. But we're trying to avoid defections, right? Number one job, we call it retention. The other side of that is avoiding defection. If I want an oil change and I just spend 15 minutes trying to make a presentation or make an appointment versus 15 minutes getting my oil changed at the place down the street, I'm going to be disappointed. And I'm going to, start looking for somewhere else to get my work done. And that's what you're trying to avoid, is that defecting customer.
Yep. Okay. A lot of what you guys just talked about is a lot of the words that I put on one slide. So getting customers to answer calls, industry status, only 20 to 30% of outbound calls are answered on the first attempt. Yes, the BDC can do somewhat of a better job with the voicemails that they leave to get those callbacks like Tammie was talking about. And then they have to be trained well how to handle those callbacks. But if you start with an AI-driven SMS campaign, you're already getting 3 to 5 times higher response rate than just the calls alone. And then converting inbound leads to schedule appointments. 40 to 50%. Now, this is industry standard. Tammie's going to say my BDC does a heck of a lot better job with this. Industry standard, 40 to 50% of your inbound service calls don't result in an appointment. If those calls go to the service advisors are slammed and yep, bring it in. I don't have time to sit down and make an appointment. And sometimes it's our BDCs with lack of training and lack of urgency. But if you hand some of those, regular standard routine calls over to the AI, then the AI is always going to handle the calls with diligence and consistency. And I think consistency is the key there.
I agree.
Handling high call volume, we already talked about that. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I agree. We've actually learned from the verbiage that we get from the AI. I'm like, wow, that's really good. We're using that.
Love that. Yeah, handling high call volume. Tammie, hundreds of calls daily might even not even be in your ballpark. But again, use AI for your status checks and your routine scheduling. And we do all of that. Sorry, shameless plug again, but then that's going to reduce that failed call rate to less than 10%, which is where we want to get. We're going to miss calls. It's going to happen, but customers need to be able to reach someone. And if they can't reach a human, they'll take an AI. And if the AI can do it well, they don't need a human. And if the AI cannot handle, you know, a more complex kind of conversation, then yeah, that's when it's time to hand it over to a human.
Can I
Managing
talk
follow-up.
about something there with the status checks? That is one of the really big key indicators with a high influx of inbound volume, because there are times throughout the day that just become your status check time frame. And your calls will literally double with status, because guess what? Sometimes people don't get a call back to let them know things are ready. So, you know, 5 o'clock, you know, noon, when they go to lunch, whatever. So that's huge. And we did talk about that earlier with internal things that have to happen to make that, you know, spot on. But that's a huge time saver right there, the status checks.
Yeah, and that's something that you and I in our old days used to train on, is
That's right.
are the service advisors following up with their people to let them know what's going on with their car. And you can use AI to handle status checks. You can use Blink AI to handle status checks. But it won't work and it will fail if the processes within the service drive are sloppy and not followed. I think we had someone raise their hand. If you want to drop your question in the chat there, Daniel, and we'll I'll watch for your question, and then we'll keep going. Managing follow-ups. If we can free up our BDC agents by, again, handing those calls over, then they can work harder on your higher value retention efforts and on giving customers a better experience, because they won't be rushed. And I guess customer no-shows are not, I don't think anybody voted for that one. So I guess that's the service drive's problem, not the BDCs. Except we pay our BDCs on shown appointments, don't we? So let's use AI to send confirmations and reminders. All right. I think we've killed this one. Daniel, I'm still looking out for your question, but to the next poll and to watch me again be a rookie. Let's see if I do it better this time. All right, the next poll is active.
And Daniel's question is up. So you want to he's got a question about the Spanish market.
Yes. So, selfish plug. We do communicate with customers in English and Spanish. And we will show it to you live when you book your demo. Okay. How is your dealership currently using AI in the BDC? We just want to know. And is this poll working for everybody? Because if it's not, please tell me. All right, so the first one is AI handling outbound. Is AI handling inbound? Is it both? Is it not yet, but we're exploring options? That's a lot of what we heard at NADA is they're exploring, you guys, the audience, you guys are exploring all of the options out there and trying to decide which one is the right fit for you. And then if there are others, we will ask you to share more with us about how you are using AI in your service BDC.
Ashleigh, in your chat, there's some answers as well that we can add in. So
we are not using AI at all. Well, do you plan to? Because if you do, I know someone.
We know a good product. Well, that would be plug number 4, I think, if you do that. But that's okay.
Stop calling me out.
She's got one left, Ron. One left. We given her a limit of 5.
Okay.
And this poll isn't even showing, apparently. So that's great. Can you guys see that? Because I think it's 17% A, 25% maybe B. Yeah, I don't know why A lot of C's? Well, that's excellent. I don't know why I can't see what you guys can see right now, but no worries.
There's a C.
Well, when Jim Sambino says he's using C, then you know it's true. So
Yeah.
Hi, Jim.
there we go.
Hi, best friend. Okay, and yeah, this is our last poll, and it is, what are your biggest concerns? Whether you are using AI today, or whether you're considering adopting AI, what are your biggest concerns? And I really want to throw this one to Tammie, who was heavily involved in bringing Blink AI in and incorporating it successfully in her BDC. Which one came first for you, Tammie? I'm sure there were concerns, right? Which one came first for you when you were considering AI, Blink AI, or the other
first
AI?
one for me was just making sure customers were given options so we didn't lose the human touch. That was the biggest concern for me because I'm a big culture person. I think a lot of people would, as we discussed in the past, probably be a little apprehensive with the pay plans, because people often pay their BDCs for show appointments, and what does that look like? I don't pay them for show appointments, so that wasn't really a concern for me. There is a conversion rate that they get, that they are, expected to hit with their call volume,
That's
but
interesting.
we have not, that has not faltered, so really for us, it was making sure there was a good blend of the AI and the human touch, I think, was the big thing for us.
Okay. Ron?
And I'm in agreement with her on the human touch part of it, right? Because there are people that just you get to a certain point and you just can't talk to the machine anymore. You just really just need to be able to get back to a human being to resolve that issue. And there's got to be a quick way to get there. And I think that would probably be the concerning thing, that we're going to lose that empathy that you would get from a human versus a machine who's just answering yes or no, or A or B. And, being able to include that ability is so important.
Okay, Dave?
Yeah, I think from the interactions that I've had with many dealers, there's this. I'll say two things here. One is in relation to that previous slide where we were talking about, well, we already have AI. And I recently wrote a blog post on this. I'd be happy to share that with anybody there. It's on my LinkedIn profile if you want to look at it. But it was about, one of the things that we often hear from people is already have AI, without thinking that really AI is a thing, rather than a technology that gets really applicable use across a dealership. Just because we have AI built in our customer engagement for the fixed ops, as it doesn't mean that AI can't be deployed in many other places in the dealership to make it much more, optimized in terms of the way it engages with customers, it schedules appointments, and looks at finances and lots of things around F&I and so forth like that it can be used. So it's not like a thing you buy once and you just put it on the shelf and it just goes. But the other thing too is with BDCs, I think sometimes people see automation, it's where it's an either or. Oh, I've got a BDC, so I don't need automation, or I've got automation, I don't need a BDC. Well, no, you need both, right? Because this whole connection with your customers takes many different forms. Earlier today we were talking about, like, when you go into a grocery store, there's people going in there for all sorts of purposes, right? Some are just running in to get a gallon of milk, and other people are coming in to shop for the week, and other people are wanting to talk to the butcher about what's the best meat that they have available that day so that they're planning their family's meals. And you've got to be able to accommodate all those particular needs. That's why the checkout line, you've got self-checkout, you got quick lane checkout, and then you got the longer line kind of options there, because customers are coming in for various reasons. And so there's clearly, if I'm just making an appointment and I want to do it at 2:00 in the morning because that's when I remembered it, I want to do it right then. I don't want to wait till the next day. I don't want to call to be in to talk to a human to do it. I just want to get my appointment done. But likewise, if I've got a real problem, I don't quite understand, my light's on, or I'm off at the side of the road, I need a tow truck, I want to be able to call and talk to a human that can kind of walk me through that experience. So it's not an either or, it's how do you coordinate, how do you orchestrate these things? And that's where I just hats off to Tammie and her team, is they've embraced this thinking, hey, this isn't a threat, this is really an opportunity for us to do bigger, more important things for this dealership than just simply booking inbound appointments, or reaching out to people and, service dues there. We can automate a lot of those functions very clearly, but now her team can stay focused on those more important things in the dealership. And so that would be kind of my, 2 cents here on this particular area.
All right, let's see the results. Every poll looks different. Love it. 67% pay plans and BDC morality. And I agree with that. I've sat through lots and lots of presentations with my sales guys. And if there's a BDC manager in the room, they're immediately thinking about, what is this going to do to my team? And how is this going to affect my team's pay plan? And then you have the general managers and, maybe sometimes even in, the generation before me that says, no, every single one of my customers has to talk to a human. I want them to talk to a human. And that's the second biggest concern. So how do we address, we already know how to address number one. Tammie touched on it, and I'm sure she'd be happy to share more about her pay plans with us, and maybe we can put together an article together, Tammie. But how do we address number two, when the fear is losing the human touch with customers?
I think you have to have that fine balance, of both. Like people don't really care how they're communicating as long as it's efficient and effective, and that they're able to get a human when they want one. And sometimes they really think they're talking to one, and they do a pretty darn good job with the AI, better than some of the agents. But also, I've seen the opposite side of that, where all the calls go into receptionist and the calls get thrown all over the universe. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that a human is doing a good job either. So you have to think about that and really look at what works. Every dealership will be different. And that was a big concern of mine initially, but man, I don't know what I would do without it now, honestly. Like, we still carry a heavy load, but it lifts a heavy load.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. Stay with us, guys. We're respecting your time. We will take Q&A.
There was a question, Ashleigh, that I saw pop up in there, something about trucks. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that. Do we have truck dealerships using our products? Dave? I haven't been here long enough to know.
Not yet anyway, of the heavy truck categories or anything like that. Clearly, we have a lot of dealerships that have trucks in the lineup, and just like we have, we're mainly focused on automobile dealerships, but that's only because that's where we started. The technology itself, as long as there is a DMS there that we can integrate with, we're usually really good and able to be able to connect with those things. We've just recently added power sports stores, to our capabilities here, and that was based on customer need, and so we addressed that as well. So happy to take a look in more detail at that's the specifics around that, because clearly it's an opportunity. This whole the needs of a truck dealership, and in fact, it may be even more so, because now you're oftentimes dealing with fleet management and trying to manage the schedules for that, have a whole other sort of complexity to them that you need automation for. So happy to take a look at that.
Yeah, that was another comment there, Dave, is being a heavy truck dealer with the fleets, customers we deal with are resistant to change. And I think that we felt the same in automotive when this whole thing started, is that customers are going to be resistant to change. Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, people, there's always resistance to change until you see the benefits of it clearly. And so oftentimes, even when we focus a lot on large dealership groups, like the Hudson Group, for example, where, they got 29 stores we'll start with 2 or 3. Let's see how this works there, and then we'll grow into that. I think that's a perfectly rational way to look at these things, and it either works or it doesn't. And you don't have to get down into the bits and bytes to know whether it's working. You look at, well, what happened to my appointment count? What happened to my RO count? What happened to my RO values? And in the vast majority of the cases where we get engaged with the dealership, we see those go up anywhere from 25 to 40%, depending on kind of the previous state. And that's how you add value to a dealership. And then if that then converts into customer satisfaction and retention, then it can even come back and offer benefits for that whole life cycle of that customer, not just that one vehicle, but that customer over that customer's lifetime. And so that's what we're really trying to do with our dealers.
Yep. Okay. Last one. So here's what we put together as some of the best practices for incorporating, I said Blink AI. I meant just AI, but got that last one in there. That was a true accident. That was my fault.
Forgiveness.
Best practices for incorporating AI into the BDC. Once again, remember, AI is to enhance and not replace our humans. Let's look at our incentives for our agents and revise the incentives and get them on board to realize they can actually make more money with AI, making them more efficient. Automate your routine inquiries so that you can reduce those missed calls during peak hour or peak times and after hours. Automate your outbound notifications so you can increase your success rates. I'm not saying the BDC should stop doing outbound campaigns. It is wildly important. But if you can start with that customer getting an SMS that says, hey, you're due for service, then they get a phone call. If they don't schedule from the SMS, they get a phone call and they're like, oh, you're right, I am. They're a little more apt to say, yep, let's do it. Get me in. I knew I was due. Even campaigns around telematics and recalls and customer defection, all of those things should start with an outbound SMS campaign, notifications, in my opinion. Regularly assess the impact on efficiency. Tammie, you touched on something earlier that you had tried a different AI product, and upon assessing it, it was not making you more successful. It was not making you more efficient, and it was definitely not making the customers more satisfied.
That's correct. It was challenging to apply. It was creating a lot of frustration for the customers, and it actually had to hear frustration in the customer's voice before it would even allow you to go in another direction, which was not a good situation. The support was compromised. So it was not a good experience. So they're not all, an AI isn't an AI isn't an AI, right? It is just like I say, a BDC isn't a BDC isn't a BDC. Just because you call it a BDC doesn't mean it is one.
No.
So you do have to Dave's point, start small, see what works for you, and then go from there.
Yep. Pick your biggest pain point, solve that one first. AI is erupting everywhere in our industry, and some solve different problems than others solve. So figure out what you need to solve that first, and then build onto it. Or find a provider that solves that first and has the rest of the solutions that you need further down the road.
Yeah, actually, there was a question about X-Time and My Karma as well, about integrations there, and the answer is yes, we do have most DMSs most of the drive software, schedulers, Xtime, certainly many of our customers use Xtime, which is great because you continue to use that from an internal perspective and set your capacities and so forth like that. And we read all those. And so we operate there. You don't have to turn multiple dials and switches to get us to work. My Karma it's probably a little bit more basic. There's more things that we could do with My Karma, but we're certainly open to looking at exposing, as many features or capabilities there as we possibly can.
Yeah, the question, Dave, was around, as you know, certain OEMs requiring service appointment tools. And the answer is we're not replacing those.
Right.
We're not replacing your service appointment tool. Those service appointment tools are built with the back end in mind. They're built with shop management in mind. We're simply sitting on top of those tools with the customer in mind. All right. Anything else before we wrap up? Any questions? Any other questions from the audience? I'll let it linger for a minute, but if you want to reach out and get in touch, you can do one of three things, or many, but you can email me directly, anorton@blinkai.com. You can call me, that's my cell phone number, or scan that QR code and book a meeting, and we'll see you online. Last minute questions, comments, concerns? Thank you, Chris. All right, we'll let everybody get back to your day. Thank you so much for joining, engaging, and staying with us through this. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, Tammie. Thank you,
Thank
Ron.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Tammie,
you.
so much. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.